severely overhyped, or massively underrated? After 4 years of development, Celestia is finally launching mainnet. Whether that's all fluff or whether it's actually going to be a big shift, a paradigm shift for the entire blockchain industry, plus the airdrop, all you need to know about TIA Tokenomics, as well as the core team's ties to Vitalik Buterin himself, is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, Celestia is promised to resolve the blockchain trilemma once and for all. The blockchain trilemma basically consists of speed, security, and decentralization. And the way Celestia aims to resolve that is through an innovation called data availability and this approach of full modularity, which basically enables developers and builders to fully customize their own tech stack and separate the execution layer from the settlement layer. The big vision for Celestia is that developers will be able to deploy their own chain, aka rollup, within minutes as easy as they would do with a smart contract. With the innovation of data availability sampling, scale increases with the number of users, and through this idea of modularity and customization, builders can create applications using their favorite virtual machines or even define their own. And the best of it is that by doing all this, you do not have to sacrifice sovereignty, which would be an absolute game changer for the entire crypto space. Now, if we talk about the origin story and the team, we can see that the Celestia journey began in 2019 as Lazy Ledger. And Lazy Ledger back then had the ambition to create a modular blockchain ecosystem with data availability layers and execution engines that would seamlessly integrate to one another. That vision has obviously evolved over the years into a thriving and collaborative ecosystem. The company or the project then changed its name during 2021 into Celestia, and in December of the same year, the Celestia DevNet launched with data availability sampling, which led to Cosmos zones deployed directly on Celestia as a rollup. In early 2023, Celestia then introduced their incentivized testnet program called Blockspace Raise, and now, after 4 years in development, Celestia is finally ready to launch. The founding team includes Mustafa Al-Bassam, who is the CEO of Celestia Labs and was actually a hacker who performed multiple high-profile attacks on Sony, Nintendo, and the CIA all the way back in 2011. And at that time, he was a very, very young kid with only 16 years of age. He even published 3 research papers on data availability and fraud proofs. All of them were co-authored by none other than the man himself, Vitalik Buterin. The other co-founder is Ismail Kofi. He is actually the CTO and was previously a senior engineer at Tendermint and the ICF. The third co-founder is John Adler, who has been here on my channel, who is the CRO of Celestia and the founder of Fuel and was previously working at Consensus. Now let's talk about the problem Celestia is aiming to resolve. As of today, most blockchains are known as monolithic blockchains. This means that all applications need to use programming languages supported by the chain's execution environment and share the same block space and validator set. This makes it almost impossible to scale because block space gets congested as the chain scales, and each transaction requires execution by a full node, which slows down the entire process. Other options like L2s on Ethereum have high security, but it can only scale to a certain level as they are constrained by Ethereum block space. App chains, on the other hand, give you full control of the tech stack, but are harder to set up since you need to recruit the validator set. And also, this is very hard to bootstrap for security and to maintain, which we as a validator with Cryptocito have extensive experience in. The way Celestia resolves this is by providing the consensus and data availability layers for decentralized applications, letting developers define their own execution environment and focus on their use case. And this is really what people mean when they talk about modularity, is to separate the execution, and the settlement layer so that developers have much more customizability and flexibility. Now, as I just mentioned, Cryptocito, we are actually going to try really hard to get into the active set of Celestia. And if you see us in the inactive set or at the bottom of the active set, we very much appreciate and actually rely on your delegations so that we can be in the active set and validate the Celestia network. Before you continue watching, thank you so much for subscribing to this YouTube channel. It really means a lot. Like this video, also share it with some of your friends. Also share this video on Twitter if you appreciate that type of content, if you find value in it. And now please enjoy the rest of the video. Now, how does Celestia actually work? As I already mentioned, modular blockchains separate different layers from one another. I already mentioned to you the execution layer, the settlement layer, but also the consensus layer and data availability. What Celestia does, it pioneers the modular blockchain concept by separating a blockchain into these different layers, which lets developers choose which technology they want to use for each layer. For example, you can choose any virtual machine, for example, the EVM, Solana VM, or even CosmWasm for the execution layer. You can then use Neutron, Ethereum, or even your own rollup as the settlement layer. And in the end, what we will use from Celestia is the consensus and data availability layer. If we talk about Celestia's architecture on a higher level, we can see that Celestia, in fact, is a standard Cosmos SDK chain with Tendermint consensus. In fact, Nick White, the COO, said on my channel that Celestia is actually a Cosmos app chain for block space. Now, one keyword that some of you might be struggling with is the word data availability. Data availability means the data is transparent and immutable. It also means that everyone can access the data to download and verify it for themselves. The analogy that Celestia is actually giving here is that it is like recording a football game by a broadcaster, which in that case is Celestia, that anyone can watch any moment during the match and after the match. It's also important to differentiate the term from data storage, as the transaction data is getting verified for the first time and it is recorded on Celestia. So data availability lets anyone check the contents of a transaction to see what actually happened. The issue that Celestia is resolving here is that as blocks get bigger, it becomes impractical for normal users to download all the data or verify the chain. By introducing data availability sampling, Celestia enables light nodes to verify a block with just a sample of its data, such as verifying a 100 megabyte block with only 10 kilobyte of data. This means the more sampling light nodes Celestia has, the bigger block size Celestia can have. With this technology, everyone can run a light node even from their smartphones to participate in the sampling process and contribute to the security and throughput of Celestia, which in the end means that rollups can publish their data on Celestia and focus on their applications, while Celestia will make sure that the data will always be available. Now, Celestia has also built infrastructure pieces for developers to make that whole process as easy and as efficient as possible. One of them, for example, is called Rollkit, and Rollkit is a framework for developers so that they can deploy their own sovereign rollup as easy and fast as possible. Another one is called Blobstream, which is the first modular data availability solution for rollups on Ethereum. This enables current Ethereum layer 2s such as Optimism and Arbitrum to directly integrate with Celestia. And Sukin Labs has also built a CK implementation. Now let's look into the ecosystem and then finish off with the tokenomics. If we look at the ecosystem, we can see that Celestia has collaborated with a lot of teams and developers to offer as many choices as possible. Some of them include rollup frameworks such as Rollkit, the OP Stack, Arbitrum Orbit, Caldera, Dimension, or Sovereign SDK for developers to spin up their own chains fast and effectively. Dimension, in fact, already has 665 rollups on their testnet, which uses Celestia for data availability. Celestia will also support the Ethereum virtual machine, Cosmos, and the Cosmos SDK from the start. They also work with blockchain infrastructure and DeFi teams such as Axelar, Kepler, and Noble for native USDC. Celestia also supports other teams that are building their own rollups, such as Eclipse, a layer 2 on Ethereum using Solana virtual machine for execution, and Celestia for data availability. Now let's talk about what you might be mostly interested in, which is the tokenomics and funding. The total supply at Genesis is 1 billion TIA tokens, with around 267 million tokens in circulation at launch. But in fact, it only will be around 74 million tokens from the Genesis drop and incentivized testnets, while the rest is for the ecosystem and future initiatives. The inflation schedule is set at 8% for the first year, decreasing by 10% annually until reaching 1.5%. The allocation and distribution is as follows. Over 50% is in fact allocated to core contributors and early investors. This will be locked up for a year and then vested for 3 years afterwards. 20% is reserved for a public allocation and airdrop with no lockup period, and 26.8% is for R&D of the ecosystem. The utility of the TIA token is similar to any other proof-of-stake chain. TIA is used as a gas and governance token and also for securing the chain. In order to use Celestia for data availability, rollups will have to pay for blob space, which is a network fee denominated in TIA for Celestia. Rollups can also use the TIA token as their gas token instead of issuing a token right away in order to quickly bootstrap their chain. Celestia also announced a Genesis airdrop with 60 million TIA tokens from 4 different categories: research and public good contributors, early modular ecosystem, early adopters of Ethereum, and stakers of IBC relayers on Cosmos Hub and Atom. Which means if you have staked Atom or Osmo, you were eligible to claim that airdrop. The claim window as of right now is over, so if you already claimed, you will receive your TIA tokens in your wallet right at Genesis without any lockout. If you have not claimed your TIA airdrop, there's unfortunately no way that you will still be able to claim so. However, I hope that you will be subscribed to this YouTube channel because I constantly keep you guys posted on upcoming airdrops, ways to maximize your eligibility, and also ways to be on top of the things all around airdrops. If we look at fundraising, Celestia raised $56.5 million so far from big VCs including Polychain Capital, Jump Crypto, and Binance Labs. Which brings me to my conclusion. Celestia, in my opinion, is going to open up a whole new era for the blockchain and DLT industry. I believe that Celestia, while it got hyped a lot and has quite high valuations, is rightfully going to be very, very big across Twitter, across YouTube, and across the entire crypto space for the next couple of weeks. It is very highly anticipated, and I'm also very proud and excited that Celestia is actually an innovation made in Cosmos. Celestia, in my opinion, is going to play a big role. It will also drive more competition with other shared security concepts and scaling ideas with rollups on Ethereum, but also within Cosmos. Nonetheless, this is the true spirit of app chain competition that I'm very excited to be a part of this and also to receive an airdrop and also to run a validator with Cryptocito. So that's up to you. What do you think about Celestia? Do you think they're overhyped, severely underrated, or are they fairly hyped? What do you think? What are your thoughts? I'll see you guys soon in the next one. Leave your views under this comment. Take care, be good, and we'll see you soon.